Hey everyone, welcome. Go ahead and grab a cup of chai, get comfy, and let's just chat for a bit about a little habit that, let's be honest, is probably way more familiar than we'd like to admit. Oh man, this one, the classic. We've all heard it, right? From a friend, a cousin, or maybe, just maybe, from the person looking back at us in the mirror. It's basically the theme song for what could have been. I bet it does. It's that little voice that starts building the perfect excuse before we've even had a chance to, fail. Or succeed, for that matter. It's this weird little trick we play on ourselves, and it's surprisingly common. And here's the thing. It turns out this isn't just some random quirk we all picked up. Psychologists actually have a name for this whole routine. And I promise you, once you hear it, you're going to start seeing it absolutely everywhere. And there it is, self-handicapping. Sounds kind of technical, doesn't it? But it's really just the simple act of putting roadblocks in our own path. We literally create our own obstacles so that if we don't succeed, we have something to blame other than ourselves. Now, before you start feeling bad about yourself, you've got to understand this isn't about being foolish or having some deep character flaw. Think of it more like a psychological shield. It's a defense mechanism that is incredibly, incredibly common. Because, well, for a little while anyway, it works. So the big question is, why? I mean, why on earth would we do this to ourselves? It seems so counterproductive. Well, it all boils down to one of the most powerful forces in our lives, that deep, nagging need to protect our ego. This slide just lays it out perfectly. Think of it like you're standing at a fork in the road. To your left is the hard way, actually working toward your goals, developing skills, and facing the very real risk of failure. It's tough. But to your right, that's the shortcut. Creating excuses, blaming your circumstances. It's an easy way to protect the ego without all that messy effort. It's a psychological escape hatch. And boy, do we get creative with these escape routes. I mean, we are masters of the craft. They often sound so reasonable that we even manage to convince ourselves. So let's go through some of the greatest hits. This one's a biggie. It's so powerful because it uses something very real, family, as the shield. It reframes the whole situation as, hey, I've got the goods, but the world is just holding me back. Ah, another classic. Just shift the blame upwards to authority. That way, if I fail, it's not my fault at all. It's just bad leadership. My potential gets to stay pure, untested, and in my mind, perfect. And this one is so tricky because here we're using our own internal state as the handicap. And look, stress and anxiety are incredibly real things, but there's a line. And when they stop being a challenge we have to face and start being the reason we don't even try, that's when they become a self-imposed cage. These excuses don't just have to be words, they can be actions too. We dive headfirst into distractions, scrolling on our phones for hours, binge gaming all night, or we just procrastinate until it's physically too late. We set up the very conditions that make success almost impossible. And here's the secret little reward. If, by some miracle, we do succeed, well, then we get to feel like a superhero. Imagine what I could do if I actually tried. That fantasy, it's a really powerful drug. But like any shortcut, this one comes with a hidden price tag, and trust me, it's a steep one. That feeling of safety you get from an excuse is temporary, but the long-term cost, that can be absolutely devastating, especially as the years start to pile up. This timeline really illustrates the trap, doesn't it? In your 20s, having untapped potential is almost cool. You're a bit of a rebel. But by the time you hit your 30s, people, your friends, your family, your colleagues, they start to see through it. Their patience starts to wear thin. And by your 40s, if you're not careful, the excuses are all you have left. The potential was never realized. And that right there is the ultimate tragic paradox of self-handicapping. The shield you built to protect your ego from the sting of failure eventually becomes a prison that stops you from ever doing anything real enough to be proud of. It starves the very self-esteem it was supposed to protect. The source material tells this really heartbreaking story about a man who used alcohol as his handicap, but his psychologist pointed out something just profound. The drinking wasn't the reason he failed, it was his strategy. It was his permission slip to just opt out of life, to not have to really truly try. His whole world was falling apart, but in a strange, twisted way, his ego was safe. Okay, wow, that's heavy, I know. But here's the good news. You're not stuck. Once you can actually see the cage you're in, you can find the key. There is a way out, and it starts with one really crucial, really humbling step.
And this is the key to everything. The whole system of self-handicapping runs on a quiet lie we tell ourselves. It only works if we don't fully admit what we're doing. But the moment you can look at it with total honesty, the moment you can say, okay, I'm not unlucky, I'm just afraid, that is the moment the whole pattern starts to lose its power over you. And that's the thought I really want to leave you with. It's the ultimate trade-off, isn't it? The short-term safety of a good excuse versus the long-term richness of a life you've actually lived. Making that choice isn't easy, but it is the only way to stop protecting your potential and actually start using it. Thanks for hanging out and thinking this through with me today.